Hey guys, what's up? Today I want to go over the tank changes, but before I do, I want to be clear that this is the media tour build and not the final release. This build is 2 or 3 months old. Everything is subject to change. And if something looks underpowered or has something wrong with it, there will be time even after the final release to change or buff the jobs. But with all that being said, let's get started. So we're going to talk about Paladin. Well, Paladin did not change at all. At all as far as the DPS rotation. It got a couple new stuff, but of all the tanks, Paladin stayed the same the most. And it makes sense because it was recently reworked. If you were expecting a lot of Paladin changes, I think you were kind of going in with the wrong expectation because it was literally reworked during Inwalker, and they're not going to rework it just to rework it again. Go into this knowing that they already reworked it, and it's probably going to play exactly the same, which it does. Let's talk about the changes first. So the first change is the 2-minute MIT, which is Guardian. Sentinel upgrades into Guardian. It reduces damage taken by 40% and erects a magic to barrier, which nullifies damage equivalent to a heal of 1,000 potency. This is huge. This is massive. This is very, very, very strong. There's also a shield, and shields stack better with MIT. So like basically, if you have 40% MIT plus 10% MIT, it's not going to be as good as 40% plus a 1,000 potency shield. Basically, the MIT is like multiplicative, and the shield doesn't go by those same rules. I probably explained that horrible because I have monkey warrior brain. Someone much smarter than me can explain that much better. But basically, it being a shield is better than like 50% MIT. So this is really good. Going into the new abilities, this is the new Wreck. This functions literally the same as Wreck, except for its AoE. That is the only difference is it does more damage and it's AoE. That is it. So these two abilities, Supplication and Sepulture, these are going to replace Atonement spam. So the first hit will be Atonement, then you will get a buff that says Supplication ready. You will use Supplication. I'll show you all of this later during the rotation. You will be Sepulture ready. You can use Sepulture. These abilities are virtually the same as just spamming Atonement. However, it feels better. It feels better to do it because you see a different animation. Now, that might not matter to some of you, but it does matter to me. The illusion of choice is always better than not having an illusion at all. I don't know. Maybe I like magic tricks or something. I don't know. But I like this feeling. The DPS rotation doesn't change at all. So this does 460. Sepulture does 480. And then Atonement itself, I'm pretty sure does 440. Yeah, so 440. Okay, so basically, these potencies are not set in stone yet. However, as you can see, you're not going to use this in your burst window. Like if you have a Holy Spirit prepped, you're not going to use it. This is basically just filler outside of your burst, but it's still nice to see, at least in my opinion. Your blade combo remains exactly the same, except for at the end of Blade of Valor, the Wreck button will turn into Blade of Honor, which I will show that in a minute. So you have Blade of Valor and then Blade of Honor. It is an off GCD. So in my opinion, it's a welcome change. Having an off GCD during that blade combo is kind of cool. It's not too much, not too little, obviously. So the fact that it's an off GCD is nice. Let's look at the blade combo. So as you can see, the rotation is going to be almost the same. Like, well, I mean, it's more or less the same. Your potion there, then you're going to fight or flight into Wreck. Now, obviously, this opener is going to vary slightly depending on the fight. Sometimes you want to pop that shit right away. Still going to have two plunges, as you can see there. When you hit fight or flight, that fight or flight will turn into Goring Blade, which is nice because you don't have to worry about Goring Blade having a cooldown. The fact that Goring Blade did have a cooldown was really stupid to begin with, especially when you only use it once a minute. But right here, as you can see, right after you use your Blade of whatever, it turns your Wreck into the Blade of Honor. So it looks really cool, the two animations together. So this is going to be your Atonement, then your Supplication, then your Sepulture. And that's it. That's really all that changes. The burst window of Paladin on the after the opener doesn't really change. A buffed Holy Spirit is still going to be stronger than the Atonement combo. So ideally, you want to go in with a buffed Holy Spirit. You want to do 1, 2, and then you want to do your 2 buffed Holy Spirits, just 2 GCDs, your Goring Blade, and then your Blade combo. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then yeah. And then you're going to want to do your Royal Authority with another Holy Spirit. So this is pretty much just the same. It's literally just the same. So right here, this is what I like to do during the Paladin burst. Obviously, this is going to vary depending on the opener, depending on the fight, if it's ultimate or not. Then you're going to get your two buffed holy spirits here. And that's the same. I mean, that's literally it. Like, there's really not much to talk about Paladin's new rotation. Like, Paladin doesn't have a new rotation. It's literally the same, except for you just have an off GCD at the very end of your blade combo. Like, that's literally it. But it makes sense, though, that they didn't really add too much because Paladin was the most recent tank to get a job change anyway. And I am a huge fan of Paladin right now. I think Paladin right now is very, very strong. I think it does a shit ton of damage, and it's very, very powerful defensively. And it's going to be even more powerful defensively in Dawntrail. The things that I do want to talk about, though, so this is the time in the video where we complain. One of the things that I'm going to complain about is Shield Bash. There's kind of like no reason for this ability to exist. I think it should be reworked or replaced. I feel like it's just been lost and forgotten. They don't really care about it. It's almost never used. The amount of times I've used this in the past like 5 years, I can't even remember because it's been that little. I didn't even use this during Shiva ads because it was a huge DPS loss to use this, and you can just kick, you can just do an off GCD stun. But anyway, so this is one ability that I feel like that they need to rework. I was kind of hoping Circle of Scorn would have seen something too. It's just kind of a trash ability, man. It doesn't do a lot of damage, and you spam it, and it's just like, it feels like just a waste. It feels like they could have like upgraded this or something. I don't know. So I was kind of hoping to see an upgrade to that. Unfortunately, cover is still basically unusable. It's still on a 2-minute cooldown, still costs 50 gauge. It's still really, really, really fucking bad. This is the same as Shield Bash to me. It just seems like they kind of forgot about it. They don't even know that it exists, right? I feel like that the nerf to it being 120 seconds, like it's already kind of bad because they took the rampart off of it. That in itself is like kind of bad. Like the way that it used to work enabled neat tanking stuff, which I thought was cool. But now that they've taken that away, and in addition to taking that away, they've also kept the cooldown at 2 minutes. Like, why is there a cooldown on this? Like 2 minutes? I'm not saying that it's completely unusable. I'm just saying realistically, you're never going to use this. I understand that like you can have those really clutch situations where, you save a healer with cover and then the healer LBs. I understand that, but that should not be used as a defense why the ability should remain the same. Does that make sense? Like, I understand that you can do that stuff, but don't you want it to be even better? Like, don't you want it to not only do that, but also be usable in non-stupid niche situations like that? I do. Like, having that mentality of, oh no, well, it's good, you can use it in this rare fucking situation like you only encounter once a year. Like, that's what you want an ability to be? That is what you want cover to be? That's just really weird to me, man. That's very weird to me when people have that mentality. In my opinion, this needed to be changed. Another ability that needed to be changed is Hollowed Ground. The fact that it's 7 minutes is really, really fucking obnoxious for an ability that is not remotely even close to being the most powerful fucking invuln. Like, let's take a look at Hollowed Ground versus Home Game. Home Game completely shits all over this cooldown in every single way, shape, and form. It's not even close. With how powerful the defensive abilities are starting to become, it's starting to close the gap on what is an invuln versus what is a defensive cooldown. I said that to point out the fact that Hollowed Ground does 0 damage never matters. It never matters that it does 0 damage. When people see 0 damage, people that don't actually know how the tanking works or how cooldown, like the overall kit of a job is, or how CD management functions throughout a fight, they see that 0 damage and they're like, fuck yeah, hell yeah. And that just comes from an ignorant mentality. The fact that it's 7 minutes is fucking horrible. There's no reason it should be 7 minutes. However, they've kind of pigeonholed themselves into this spot where if they change this, they have to change the others. Are they going to change the others or just leave this one shit? They've chosen to leave this one shit, unfortunately. Now, when I say shit, I don't mean it's unusable or anything. I'm just saying, like, the amount of times that you can use Holmgang or Living Dead or even Bolide sometimes. You can even use Bolide sometimes, like 1.5 times as much as you use Hollowed. Like, it's kind of crazy. One really good example of this is in Eden E12, the door boss. You can actually Bolide the very first buster and have it up again for the last buster. Now that matters because Hollowed Ground, you can't do that. And that's a problem. In situations like that, Hollowed Ground is at a clear disadvantage. And I don't really think it should be like that. Should they rework invulns? No, I don't think so. Should they make all invulns the same timer? Yes and no. I would be okay with it if they did it correctly, but I wouldn't like it if they fucked it up. It's kind of hard to identify the exact problem because there's so many different solutions for how to make it better. I think the easiest solution would just be to lower the cooldown by a minute, but then they would either have to do one of two things. They would either have to lower all of the other cooldowns for a minute, or they would have to make Hollowed Ground like Bolide. So do you want to homogenize the jobs even more, or do you want to make the other tanks more powerful with having a lower cooldown? What's better? I would be fine with either. I can see arguments on both sides. But regardless, they have decided to keep this the same for now. Maybe this will be changed on the final release. Hopefully Cover will see some love. Hopefully Shield Bash will see some love. But most of all, hopefully Hollowed Ground will see a change. But I doubt it, but we'll see. Everything else is the same, man. Like I said, Paladin recently got a rework. So, I mean, I kind of went into this expecting that Paladin would be pretty much the same. And it is. If you like Paladin now, you'll like it even more level 100. I will say this, though. It was kind of obnoxious to have Goring Blade on a cooldown because you only use Goring Blade when you use Fight or Flight. So it didn't make sense for it to have a cooldown. So the way that they did that, the way that they just make your Fight or Flight turn into Goring Blade, that's really nice. So you don't have to worry about, like, basically what I'm trying to get at is you don't have to worry about hitting it immediately. If you forgot to hit it immediately, then that would mean that your next minute would be delayed by 1 GCD, and that's not the case anymore. You can hit it at the beginning, you can hit it at the end. It also leaves more flexibility for late raid buffs or something. So let's say the raid buffs are late. So in that case, you would be able to hold on to it and hit it later. The point I'm trying to get at is that because it doesn't matter when you hit it, it's just a very tiny thing that's like better. It just makes the job better. That's the point I'm trying to get at. So that's really good. Paladin is still super tanky. The rotation is going to be exactly the same. So like I said earlier, if you like it now, you're going to love it at level 100. And again, I want to touch on the fact that this build is like 2 or 3 months old. It's not the final release. They may change it. But anyway, guys, thanks a lot for watching. That's pretty much all I got for Paladin. But yeah, man, thanks for watching the video. And yo, I'll see you later. Peace.